Hey all, Rick Rex here, back with another one for you, and today we're going to wrap up our look at the Atomic power set with the melee build. Now this one is such a strong contender when it comes to the builds for Atomic for sure, and also melee in general. But we of course are going to take a look at the mods, the artifacts, the allies, the build, and of course the loadout, and yes, we will check out what kind of damage it can do, and as a sneak surprise, this one does not involve Whirling Dervish. But first, if you like what you see and you want more, hit that like and subscribe button to help keep the channel growing and also to not miss one single update as they drop. Okay, so Atomic Melee. So this one was pretty interesting just as much of the rest of the power set has been. I cycled through the combos thinking I'd find something that had hit like crazy, but it all boiled down to one simple question which comes up a lot in Melee. Will it beat out the super speed component? And y'all, that means it's time for my simple disclaimer on Melee in general. If you are not super speed, it is not worth the risk. I'm just kidding y'all. Now, I thought while doing this power set in general that it was more built to melee and thus should deliver when it comes to melee damage on its own. Now what I found that is the powers that are available to combo are very specific to each situation, but more importantly, they clip on the last part of the combo. Now most of them hit roughly the same damage wise, it's just more of a range question than anything individually for most of them. But one in particular you can cycle through just a little bit faster than the rest. So without further ado, let's hop on down to business. And we'll start out with our white mods as always. In our weapon, we're going replenishing adapters, so just in case we run out of power, we can get it back quickly. Atomic, as we know, is really power friendly, so this shouldn't be an issue, but hey, never say never, right? In our head, we're going supercharged Atomic Blast. Now the biggest deal with this power is its cooldown. Most supers have a really long one, but not Atomic Blast. We can rock this one almost back to back with a half-second cooldown. In our neck, we're going Escalating Might to take advantage of the extra 2% might that it gives us when it procs. In our back, we're going Berserker Damage, as there really isn't any cooldown issues that we have to address with the power set, so that means extra damage when the situation calls for it. In our chest, we're going Penetrating Strikes to take advantage of the NPC defense reduction that it gives us. In our legs, we're going Restorative Electron Flare. Now we are going to be using this power in this build, so in melee range, extra health is always a plus. In our feet, we're going Tumbling Master to keep us out of trouble. Being melee puts us in the way of harm often, and thus we'll need a quick exit from time to time. So due to that, Tumbling Master is invaluable with a melee build. In our hands, we're going Max Damage for the extra 2% damage that it gives us when it procs as well. Now for artifacts, we're going with the Trans Strat Quiz combo for this one. Trans for the extra crits that it provides, Strat to leverage those crits into innate damage, and Quiz for all of the damage that he gives us from Mega Blast to Refractal Beam plus the extra 1% super that it gives us when Mega Blast goes off. Now for allies, we're going with the AoE Trinity. Superman, Batman Who Laughs, and Shazam. Now we're going Soups in the damage slot for his cone attack Freezing Breath, which hits super nicely on groups of enemies. And for our first passive, we're going with Batman Who Laughs for his Luck of the Draw ability and the buffs that his cards provide us. For our second passive, we're going with Shazam for his Power of the Shazamily ability. Every time we throw an ally, it gives us a 6% might buff that lasts for 30 seconds, and these two passives are must-haves for any DPS in most any build. Now on to the build. So for our weapon, we won't be spending any points here as we simply won't be using it. And for our movement mode, we're actually going to be able to be super speed or anything else for this playstyle. So we are going to take our super, one on the second row of our choosing, and then pick up our innates at the bottom. Acrobatics to the lower right, and everyone else to the left. And that's right, leave Whirling Dervish alone, and you can pick up Vortex Trap if you want to, but it's not necessary. For iconics, we're going to pick up Robot Sidekick here as well as Sonic Cry, and that's all that we need. Now for our stat or skill points, we're going super powered focus, we're going to max out our crit attack chance and damage, and then we're going to dump everything into might and power. Anything else from here is going to go straight into health, because remember y'all, a dead DPS does no DPS. And also, as melee, we're going to need that health. So with this build, it puts my might at 176,500. This will let you compare to your tune to get a feel for how this loadout's going to perform for you. My might on live is significantly higher than this tune's, so you should notice the same as well. And now for the star of the show, and that's the loadout. So we're going with Sonic Cry, Electron Flare, Thermochemical Explosion, and Geiger Blast, and we're going to round that out with Robot Sidekick and Atomic Blast. So we finally found a melee build that beats out Whirling Dervish and Vortex Trap. I knew Atomic had it in it, and I could not be more excited. So what we have going on here is pretty simple, but it's going to take some practice for a lot of you. We have Sonic Cry that's going to lay down the Daze PI or power interaction for us. Now it hits very solidly on a large group of close enemies, and then we have Electron Flare. Now it's one of the power's only dots or damage over time powers, but it works perfect for our situation. This one is incredibly useful to make our strat card go crazy, because remember, the more crits you get, the more crazy that strat card goes. Now then we have our lone combo power, Thermochemical Explosion. This is one of the quicker of the melee combos and clips super nicely with Geiger Blast, which leads us to Geiger Blast. Now it's a very hard-hitting AoE close-range power that puts up a ton of damage. So what we have to get really good at is, that's right, our old friend clipping. Yep, that's the secret to making this thing sing like a canary. The last hit on Thermochemical Explosion is a really big one, and if we clip it just right, and by that I mean we wait until our tune's hands are in the air, then we get a double tick on that power with no time wasted, which is super important. And then we're going to milk that damage until Electron Flare comes off cooldown, and that's 3 rotations of combos before reapplying the PI or power interaction and the dot or damage over time of Sonic Cry and Electron Flare. Now, our rotation is going to be 1, 2, combo 3, and at the very end clip with 4, combo 3, clip with 4, combo 3, clip with 4, and rinse and repeat. Now, you'll see that I'm not 100% perfect here, but you'll see a few dips where I messed up the clipping. Nobody's perfect. But it just takes practice. But since we have all of that out of the way, let's see what kind of Mack truck we're going to be driving through all those NPCs. Okay, you know, I still can't believe that we pulled off something that does more damage than Whirling Dervish, and I am super stoked. So we'll start out with the bad as always, and that's the beginning. Since we have to force our aura up, our first comes in as our low at 178,726. Now what I will say here is that it usually starts out around that 200,000 mark unless I mess up the clipping on one of the combo passes, which I obviously did here. So even with no aura, it's not normally going to dip like this in the beginning, but look at what it does when I start to land them perfectly. Our high on this one comes in at 278,128 damage per second. That's amazing, especially since we had several of them reaching up in that neighborhood, and this thing just simply did not disappoint. Now, the loadout looks to live at or average around the mid 230s to upper 240s, which means yes, it is worth the risk, and yes, you should. Provided, of course, you have a good tank and a good healer there with you. But even though this one didn't disappoint, it's time for my favorite part. Let's drop everything. Okay, I love it. So our big hit comes in at 2,138,479 damage per second. And that's right, for those of y'all sitting in the back, that's over 21 million in damage in 10 seconds. You want to melt some ads? This is the way. Now we followed up that big hit with a normal parse because I messed up the clipping again, and then it sprung up to 290,000 and then another one at 287,000 before settling back into normal range. This is impressive, y'all. So sadly, this wraps up the Atomic Power set. Even though it kept me up a few nights, I enjoyed it. But I'll be kicking off our look at Hardlight next, so my sleepless nights are not done, but stay tuned for that one coming your way shortly. Thanks y'all for joining in. Once again, if you like what you see and you want more, hit that like and subscribe button to help keep the channel growing and also to not miss one single update as they drop. I'll see y'all next time.